Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to legends, some of my favourite people and some of the most popular people in the country, and we've got one for you today. Former England captain and radio star, TV star, and, well, overall sex symbol, really. David Gower, OBE, how are you?
Now you're making me laugh. Thank you very much. I can't quite subscribe to all of that, but...
Well, take the last half of it, something like that. What's it like being you? I mean, to be a star in your own field and then go into other people's and do that equally as well must be thrilling, because most people just disappear, don't they?
That challenge might still be to come, to be honest. If I'm honest, I've had a really good run. I mean, for instance, the first part of a career, if you can call it that, playing cricket for, well, the best part of 20 years, having some success, enjoying it, loving it, going straight into broadcasting and journalism. And that's kept me going for even longer. So it must be, 25 years or so as a cricket commentator and presenter, which I've loved doing. I mean, there are signs that that's coming to, or might have to change direction soon. But it's been a joy. And, to stick with, as it were, the trade I've learned is cricket. I guess playing it and broadcasting, slightly different elements to it, but, both of which I've enjoyed the challenges. And I think one of the things that drives anyone is a sort of sense of pride, in performance and achievement. And I think I've got it all, been able to get a lot of it right, put it that way, not all of it. We all make mistakes, which is part of life.
And to be credible as well is another thing that's thrilling, and you are. I wonder, when you walked off the pitch the last time and you were no longer a cricketer, is there a period of mourning? Because you were defined by that your entire life, and it's something that you worked so hard to be so successful at.
Yeah, I mean, when you come to that moment, and I'm sort of thinking back to this last summer, Alistair Cook saying, OK, I'm going to finish at the Oval, you retire from international cricket, you're still going to play county cricket. But that moment where you think, OK, you're leaving what has been, and for Alistair also was a very successful stage. I mean, he did it perfectly. I mean, that sort of fairy tale ending he contrived. Brilliant for him. And actually brilliant for the people that followed him for the last decade, to be able to sort of get that farewell in. I mean, not everyone, and I certainly didn't have that opportunity. My Test career came before I thought I was ready, and was someone else's decision. The end to it rather came before I was ready. It was someone else's decision, which is the way it happens for most people. But when you finish the playing career, don't feel sorry for me, because I've been very lucky. I went straight into broadcasting. Went straight to BBC, then on to Sky, did radio, did television, did all sorts of things, which was huge fun. First of all, you learn the business, of course. Then you try and get better at it. If you don't get better, of course, you don't keep the job. But the people you have to sort of feel sorry for are those that, say, have been in sport, made their living out of sport for maybe, say, 15 years, maybe 20 years, and when the inevitable happens and they come to a halt, then if they have nothing obvious to go to, that can be incredibly testing.
We hear a lot in the newspapers and in the media generally about mental illness, which is brilliant, because it's sort of putting a light on stuff that in the past we've probably hidden away in our homes.
The number of places available either in a commentary box or a press box are inevitably limited. And certain people have, shall we say, the talent to speak or to write or both. For instance, my colleague Michael Addison is brilliant at absolutely both. He's a very, very bright man with a very clear mind who does both things brilliantly. But there are only so many spaces for people like him, and there are other people who are no doubt are qualified, but there isn't the space. So, the great bulk of sportsmen have to go somewhere completely different. Despite the number of television channels and the number of pundits required nowadays, it's still the minority by some distance. And there are people who get it horribly wrong. I mean, it's a horrible thing to have to allude to on radio in public, but cricket as a sport has a very high rate of suicides from those that, for various reasons, decide they can't go on it any further. And there's a former colleague of mine, a fellow called David Frith, wrote the book, which basically talks you through it. So it's obviously quite heavy reading. And there are people, you don't have to be, say, a Test cricketer to suffer the mental anguish of a career coming to a finish. There are county cricketers for whom the summer has been their be-all and end-all. The camaraderie you have in a dressing room is important. They can get through the next winter, even if it's a bit quiet, even if they're doing jobs, other sorts of jobs in the meantime, because they know the next summer is coming up. And when that final summer comes, there have been tragic examples where people have said, well, I just literally don't, in effect, in a very polite way, I'm putting it, don't know what to do next.
And we all know in this business you don't retire, you are retired. And it's unfortunate both in the media and sport, really. That's just the way it is, isn't it?
That's fair. Yeah, it comes to us all. And will come to me very soon, probably.
I've heard it might happen to me this afternoon, David, so we better hurry up, really.
Please no.
I hope it's not halfway through this interview. That would be unedifying, wouldn't it? Let's talk about something slightly different, about nagging parents and the fact that we do go on at them, don't we? A new study from Direct Line's Driver Plus has revealed that the fifth of the UK's parents admit to basically causing arguments over very little. And we've got to be careful with, haven't we? Because we've got to advise but not nag.
Yes, I mean, I now go from cricket commentator to social commentator and officially nagging parent. And my involvement is as the parents of two girls who are now growing up, 25 and 22 respectively.
I think you'll find they're grown up, David. I know you don't want them to, but at that age they are technically adults.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm absolutely. But I mean, they are drivers. They each have a car, and they've each probably got, I don't know, they might have had speeding fines, parking tickets. Luckily, nothing much more serious than that yet. But it's one of those things. I mean, you're absolutely right. I am a firm believer in making my own mistakes, allowing my children to make their mistakes. But you want them to make the little mistakes and the medium-sized mistakes that are not going to be catastrophic.
Yeah.
So you want them to grow up, and as part of one's life education is making those mistakes. And I don't want to talk you through their mistakes or my mistakes particularly, but driving is one of those things where, let's face it, if you get it wrong, at the wrong end of the scale, the other end of the scale, that can be tragic and catastrophic.
It is terrifying, and you're right, wrong place, wrong time, or one silly mistake could be terminal, and we forget the power of these cars, and they're so fast, and we're travelling more than we ever did.
Well, I mean, for instance, I've used an example where the other day I was on the M4, stuck for 2.25 hours because of an accident ahead. Now, at the end of that, as you go past, two wrecked cars, and you've seen the emergency services, so the fire truck's been up there, the ambulance has been up there, the police have been up there. Your first thought is for the people involved in that accident, hoping that they are okay, is the simple way of putting it. But the signs are that someone's been badly hurt, and that's a horrible thing to contemplate. So you sympathise. My first thought is to sympathise with them, but then of course you think on as to about thank God it's not yourself. And even more importantly, thank God it's not your children who are involved in something like that. And it's something I've had near misses over the years, over the last, 40-odd years plus driving. I've done some very silly things with cars, I have to say. So it is very much a question of saying, do as I say, not necessarily as I did. And as a man who's lost a car in the lake in St. Moritz once, that's one of those things you hope no one else has to do ever. But you just want them to be aware of the perils. So, for instance, Direct Line's thing is this Drive Plus box, which monitors how young people drive, whether they're accelerating rapidly, speeding, braking too quickly, what time of day or night they're driving, and the incentive at the end being that if you are judged by the Drive Plus box to be a good driver, you get money off your insurance premiums. So there's a financial incentive, and it's actually a way as a parent of sort of kind of nagging, but without the way nagging from a distance. So you're not there sort of wagging your finger. You've got a black box in a car doing the wagging for you.
It's subliminal because these kids have moments of madness, and especially the young ones. You hear these horror stories of how they go out and they're just having so much fun. But of course, driving's not fun. It's incredibly serious, especially if you've got a HGV behind you.
There are so many circumstances, so many situations, as we all know. There can be something behind you, something in front of you, something coming from the side of you. Sometimes it is pure bad luck. Most of the time, you think back to the things that, for instance, we've got wrong, I've got wrong, where most of the time you think, I could have done something different. My first accident was the family car that was, which had a long and accident-free history. It had been around Africa. We used to live in, my father was based in Dar es Salaam, in what was then Tanganyika, now Tanzania. And we took this car as we left the country up into the game parks, dirt roads, Murram roads. We took it down through Mozambique, South Africa, put it on a boat back to England, kept it as a family car for the next, 11, 12 years. I passed the test. The car is now mine. It took me about 6 weeks to put it into a hedge in Leicestershire. Luckily, no injuries. The car was not going to survive that, sadly. But no one was hurt as such. It didn't hurt anyone else. So luck is on your side from that point of view. And it was as simple as car with sort of not the modern technology, obviously, but it was as simple as a little bit of rain, a country road, a slippery surface, a skid, and suddenly it's all over. And not having the skill. So, there are all sorts of things you can do. You can sort of send your children to skid pans, which they probably quite enjoy, actually. But, it was just one of those moments where I just got it wrong.
How do we get one of these little boxes if we want one?
Very easy. Directline.com.
Yeah.
The campaign there, this research is backed by, the campaign is called Get Off My Back, which of course can work in both directions for nagging parents and nagging children. And just look for the Drive Plus box, and it's as simple as that.
I got to know you especially well because cricket wasn't necessarily my favourite sport when you did They Think It's All Over, which was a hoot, and it was on for so long, and you and Nick seemed to really enjoy it. Is there any hope that could come back? Because it's one of those shows that deserves sort of a rebirth, isn't it?
I'd love it if the same people could be involved again. It was fun. It was great fun. My role as a sportsman to be the victim of the butt of the jokes was clearly defined in the contract,
Yes.
as was Gary Lineker's role on the other side of the room. I still see Nick Hancock because we're both involved with the Lord's Taverners. It's a very long-standing, worthy cricket charity, and they do some fabulous work, of course, as well. With the disadvantaged kids that they look after. But Lord's Taverners, someone like Nick loves it. I've been doing stuff for Lord's Taverners now for 40 years. So I see Nick with that. I don't see much of Gary nowadays as I did. We were both sort of Leicester boys of a sort. Those days are long gone now. I'm in Hampshire. He's elsewhere.
Seems like every cricketer's commenting on the fact that he's commenting on Brexit and shouldn't be doing it. Do you care that he comments on Brexit?
I don't know. It's up to him. We all have things to say on Brexit. And if you want to nag, that's
yes, we should have a box for that, shouldn't we? Where we can blow each other up as soon as we start talking about it.
Yes, that's right. The reverse place is a Brexit swear box going at the moment. But for Gary is prepared to be outspoken and prepared to put his opinions out there. Some people criticise him for it, but to be fair, that's not my bag as such. If I use Twitter, which I use very infrequently whenever it's there,
very wise.
It's normally much more light-hearted. With the odd sort of serious moment, but to be fair, let's face it. Just because whatever image you have of either cricketers or footballers or rugby players or international athletes or tennis players, there are a lot of my colleagues are seriously clever people. Going back to the Michael Atherton thing, Michael is a very, very intelligent person with a very good, clear, clean working brain. And if he has an opinion, it's probably quite a good one. And there are others who are a bit more instinctive, whose politics is driven by other machinery, as it were. But if you have an opinion and you want to share it, that's up to you. It's a question of something like Twitter, of course. It's a question of whether or not you want to get involved in the argument that follows, or take the flack or the abuse that might follow when you put your.
I try and keep away from all that.
I'm happy to keep it light and fluffy.
Me too. I'd rather just talk to people like you and put it out. People seem to like that quite a lot. Very finally, you talked about the change in direction. What's next? We've got 1 minute left. What are we going to be seeing you doing in 2019?
Biggest thing I have to look forward to in 2019 is the Ashes. I'll be presenting and commentating for Sky on the Ashes in August through into September. And the Ashes for cricketers, of course, is pretty much the pinnacle. Whatever the state of world cricket, England, Australia is a crunch competition. So that's something to look forward to. When that's done, that is the end of my contract actually with Sky. So I'm looking for things to do. I'd love to stay in broadcasting in some shape or form. Cricket has been the life, and therefore will be the easiest thing to try and stay in somehow. But if there are other ways of doing it, then that's absolutely fine with me. But it's a time actually to find some new answers to new challenges, and still a young man, still a very young 60.
If anybody can offer David Gower a job, please give us a call on our switchboard and we'll put you through. David, so lovely talking to you. What a star, what a legend, and you're not coming off the airwaves anytime soon. You're too good at it. Thank you for your time.
I love it. Thank you very much indeed.